Welcome to Advent of Tessellations 2025. My name is Madonna Yoder, and you're joining hundreds of folders around the world on this 25-day journey into the infinite world of repeating patterns folded from a single sheet of paper. You'll discover many different twists in this challenge, building up to advanced patterns with flagstone motifs of trapezoid twists. Welcome to day 8 of Advent of Tess, where we're folding a pattern that I designed named Maelstrom. Which is a fancy word for big storm. And this pattern has a bunch of twists. It's very spirally around the center. And let's go ahead and jump in. We'll need 24 grid divisions. And I've already got that folded on the paper. We're going to start with an open hexagon twist in the center. And by the way, if you don't know how to do your 24 division grid, make sure to check out the welcome video that you'll see when you sign up at training.gatheringfolds.com/advent. So for our open hexagon twist, we are going to find the grid line one space above the right hand corner and make it a mountain fold, and make the grid line one space above that a valley fold. We are going to do this for all 6 directions. Notice I'm letting it stop in the center. I'm not folding all the way across. This is making the paper 3D. And as I keep setting up these pleats, we will start seeing a star shape emerge in the very center. So you can see a point of the star here. This is also a point, and that will also be a point. And we want to let the center stay 3D and kind of smooth out the area so that the edges where we have pleats already formed on both edges, those edges lay flat, but the rest of the paper can be lifted up. And here we're making good use of our folding surface to keep the pleats in place for us. I don't have to hold on to these in order for them to stay in place. And when my last pleat is put in place, all of the surrounding of the paper, the parts surrounding the center are flat, and the very center is this puffy hexagon star. So that's the signature setup for the open hexagon twist. And to squash this twist, we press from the top. And then smooth out, first with fingers and then with a bone folder. From here, we're going to put closed rhombus twists on each of the 6 pleats around this hexagon. We'll start with this pleat on the right hand side. And today we're going to be using a lot of tube pleat spacing. So we'll have the valley fold one space out and parallel to this existing folded mountain. Our mountain fold one space further. The other piece of information we need is that the pleat coming from the center of the hexagon is the through line of this rhombus, which makes that grid triangle, which if we were looking at an open triangle twist, that would be the same grid triangle there. That is going to be one side of the central diamond. So instead of having our third pleat go this way, we're going to have our through line continue straight, and we're going to have a matching diagonal pleat on the opposite side of the central diamond. We're going to have a pleat overlap that's caused by this new diagonal pleat. And then we can have everything set up and squash it into place. For these first steps, we're going to fold the rhombus twists and have three-way intersections, triangle wraps, in between them. Because our next twist is going to be on the opposite side of the paper, but it's not quite time to fold the whole twist that's coming next, because it's actually going to be a rhombus. And so there's some waiting that needs to happen between folding these rhombi and the next ones if we don't want to create a ton of unnecessary pleat overlaps. So next I'm rotating so that my tube, my pair of pleats forming a tube is going horizontally off to the right. And then I'll follow the same spacing for this next rhombus. So I have my valley one space out from the folded mountain, my mountain one space further, and the first grid triangle past the mountain is one side of the central diamond. When I pick this up, I'm keeping actually the mountain fold that passes from the hexagon, or that's coming from the hexagon. The valley of that plate will switch to the opposite side. And this mountain fold that's coming in on a diagonal plate is going to jump over to the other side of the central diamond and head up and immediately hit the pleat at the top of the tube. Now this situation should seem familiar from our previous days of Advent of Tess. This is where we put in a triangle wrap by erasing the mountain fold and the valley of the top plate until we have a three-way intersection of mountains that is just over, like right on top of where this new mountain fold is coming in, and that allows our paper to lock underneath. And with these rhombus twists, we can press from the top to squash. Rotating, I'll repeat again, putting in, this time without drawing, putting in my valley and my mountain at tube pleat spacing. My through line is coming from the central hexagon, and the mountain fold of my diagonal pleat is going to jump away from the valley, one space, and then we'll have the mountain leading into the triangle wrap. And we can settle all of the pleats of this rhombus and press to squash. Rotate and repeat. I'll find my new pleat at tube pleat spacing. I'll pick up where this rhombus is going to be so I can put in the second diagonal pleat and then the triangle wrap where it hits the next pleat, because otherwise it would fold through both that horizontal pleat and right under the tip of the next rhombus. It's just easier to keep track of everything if we do a triangle wrap. Less of a mess. And rotating again, I'm going to do the same thing with one slight change. Notice I have this pleat coming through down here. I'm going to open that pleat enough for me to put in my new tube pleat and then close the pleat from the first rhombus back again. So I'm letting the pleat, my new pleat, go in first and then closing back up. This is more of a personal preference thing than a mandatory thing, because it avoids having extra layers in one place. And then I can set up the rhombus. I have my pleat going up into the triangle wrap. and press to squash. Rotating once more, it's time for our 6th rhombus. And this time, in previous days' tutorials, I was able to do the parts that were the same first and then the part that was different, with putting in twists that have wraps on either side. This time, I'm going to put in the wrap where we're putting in the wrap from the other direction first. So I have my valley and my mountain for my new diagonal pleat, tube pleat spacing relative to this pleat over here. And I'm opening this bottom pleat, the same one that I opened to put this pleat in. This step is easier because I put the tube in first and then close this pleat back on it. So now I can freely open this pleat without messing with any of the others. And I'm going to run this valley through until it hits the valley down below. And we're going to let that be a 3-way intersection of valley folds, followed one space away by a 3-way intersection of mountain folds. And that will tuck around and lay down flat. From there, I can finish setting up my rhombus twist. And I just want to show you real quick what can go wrong with a triangle wrap. So what can go wrong is you end up stuck here. And the reason why that's happening is that the valley fold isn't quite reaching back into the 3-way intersection. It's getting stuck here, and depending on your paper, that can be like a really hard thing to push through. The way you get around that is by flipping over to the other side of the paper and finding the 3-way intersection that would have been of valleys on the other side. Find that as mountain folds. And that can all lay down. You come back and surprise, there's a perfect triangle wrap. So with this rhombus set up, we can go ahead and squash, or I should say with the triangle wraps on both sides and all the plates of the rhombus, then we can squash. And one of the cool things about this pattern is this forms a really circular shape. You wouldn't expect patterns that are composed entirely of straight lines based off of hexagons to have circles in them. Yet here we are. And next we're going to flip over, and this is where we get into more of the standard tessellation style of folding, where we're going to start in one place and follow the consequences of that move all the way around instead of doing 6 of the same thing. So we'll start with this guy here. We're taking this triangle wrap, and instead of turning it into a triangle twist, we're going to turn it into a closed rhombus twist. The central diamond is sitting right on top of that triangle wrap, the 3-way intersection. And I can find my through line by following the bottom pleat. So of the wrap, there's this bottom pleat that's coming in. That is the through line of the rhombus. And then I've got a mountain coming in on this side of the central diamond. I need a mountain on the parallel grid line one spacing away. On the other side of the central diamond. And that's going to cause a tube pleat up here and a pleat overlap down here. With that set up, we can go ahead and squash. From here, with our pleat overlap, we're actually going to resolve this with one rhombus and one triangle. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to say, okay, I've got my valley fold under here. I looked at the crease pattern and I can see that there's 2 spaces between this valley and this one. And what we're going to do is use that valley and pop down the mountain from the rhombus we just put in. So we're extending that valley fold one more space until it hits the valley underneath. And we're going to let that be a 3-way intersection of valley folds. Notice what I just did. Notice I popped up and I'm letting this point one space out from where the valley hits the mountain down below. I'm letting that point be a 3-way intersection of mountain folds. I'm also letting this point here be a 3-way intersection of mountain folds. I have 2 3-way intersections of mountain folds, one space apart. And so we've got this intersection of valleys down below and the intersection of mountains that's needed to make the wrap. Then I also have this intersection of mountains up here, which we will see actually turns into another rhombus twist. But for now, we can go ahead and squash the triangle on the other side. So I'm going to grab that wrap, flip the paper over, and that is going to be an open triangle twist. So I need to push my mountain fold one space over so that the 3 mountain folds outline a single grid triangle. Put my valley on the far side, and I can press to squash my new open triangle twist. Flipping back over, we're going to take this 3-way intersection, and I mean there's multiple ways to go about this. What I'm gonna say actually is let's go the other direction. I think that will work better in the long run, because we won't be sending pleats through existing twists. It's kind of a toss-up, to be honest. And I'm going to start with the most easily identifiable twist in this set of parallel pleats, which actually turns out to be jumping back to what we had before and working our way backwards. But enough of the theorizing, let's go ahead and start doing. I'm going to take this 3-way intersection and turn it into a rhombus twist. And with that in place, just like I did the previous one, there's not enough. This is the only way to create a rhombus twist from a 3-way intersection, a closed rhombus twist, that is. And we can go ahead and press to squash. And then we can come and deal with this pleat overlap the same way we dealt with the last one, with the valley fold at tube pleat spacing, which is crossing just one grid spacing of this overlap. We're going to interrupt the mountain fold from the rhombus we just folded to run that valley one space further down and tuck in. And this gives us a 3-way intersection over here. We can flip the paper over and turn that triangle wrap into an open triangle twist. Again, for the very specifics, we have seen this in previous days, and also we saw the repeat just a minute ago. Flipping back, I'm going to go ahead and turn this 3-way intersection into a closed rhombus twist, because it is causing a pleat overlap, and I want to resolve all of my pleat overlaps. When I do that, just like we saw around the very center, we have a pleat from a rhombus hitting a pleat from another rhombus at 120 degrees, and I can wrap that around and press to squash. I'm going to take that three-way intersection and flipping over. This is where the pattern gets modified to fit better on 24 grid divisions. In the densest way of repeating this center, that next twist would be a rhombus twist. But for today's purposes, we're going to make it a triangle because that does not create new pleat overlaps. That said, even if that twist is a triangle, the pattern can still repeat. So this one I'm going to take and flip into a closed triangle twist. So in this pattern, the positions of symmetry, like if we ignore that that's a closed triangle instead of a closed rhombus, the positions of symmetry are 6 of the same thing around this hexagon, 3 of the same thing around this triangle, and 2 of the same thing around this blank space. So you'll see these slivers, these triangles, these would be 2 rhombus twists, but we don't want to cause pleat overlaps and partial twists, so we're doing it as a closed triangle. And then, flipping the paper over, I want to continue the pattern. This time I have more information. I know exactly what happens in the corner and at what spacing. So actually, what I'd like to do is with this set of parallel pleats, I'd like to start with this pleat down here, which is the same as this one over here by symmetry. That goes to a closed triangle twist on the other side. So I'm going to flip the paper over. I can look and see up here, how far is that closed triangle out from the corner of the open triangle, or that space rather. And I see that it's 1 space out along this pleat that passes over the open triangle corner. So 1 space out, and my valley is going this way. My mountain is 1 space further, and it's a closed triangle, so all 3 of the mountain folds are going to come to that particular point. And the way this pleat is coming in, this pleat and this pleat are meeting at a 60-degree angle. So we can't use the triangle wrap that has pleats meeting at 120 degrees. We're going to need a compound wrap. So in a compound wrap, it's kind of like 2 triangle wraps put together. What happens is that just like the mura-ori or herringbone corrugation, we see these pairs of squiggly folds with 3-way intersections wherever they're meeting. I like to think of it as this fold is coming in and mirroring over the mountain fold, and then it's hitting the valley, or either mirroring or bouncing. Either analogy works. And then it's hitting the valley fold down below and bouncing again. So it's doing a zigzag motion. The mountain fold is doing the same thing, but it's much harder to draw since it's, you know, a mountain fold. And so the mountain fold is coming in, having the 3-way intersection up here, having another 3-way intersection 1 space away, and then continuing on its merry way. We'll have a pleat overlap down here, and this twist that we're trying to set up is the closed triangle. We can press to squash. Holding that in my right hand, I'll flip the paper over, and the compound wrap is perfect for setting up rhombus twists. What we want to do is have the wrap spread out a little, and then pushing from the back, I'm pushing that point that's sunken down and bringing it up. Right here, it may not look like we have enough space to squash the twist, but we actually do. It's not my favorite orientation of things to squash a rhombus twist, but the alternative is to go ahead and set up the next rhombus twist and do a triangle wrap under that, which leads to this pleat adding to the pleat from the triangle wrap and making a double depth pleat. So this first time I'm going to show it with just this one rhombus twist in place. Next time I'll show the whole sequence with both of them. And basically with this you can do one step and then move on to setting up the next twist, and then set up basically one twist at a time. Doing this does rely on your grid being very accurate though, because these folds are coming right up under and this mountain is laying in the same place as the valley of the new twist. So you are relying on some precision, some accuracy to get this to work well. Next, we'll open up the pleat from the next three-way intersection, and I'm going to restore my rhombus twist. I'm going to put in the rhombus at that three-way intersection. So the through line is coming from the bottom, the central diamond was sitting right on top of that three-way intersection, and this mountain is coming down. It's hitting, we can consider this pleat as coming from this direction. So it is in fact hitting at 120 degrees, and we can press this fold to wrap. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got the pleat from the wrap plus the pleat from the rhombus. This makes two spaces between the mountain and the valley fold, because I have the valley of the rhombus pleat in the same place as the mountain of the wrap pleat, and those cancel each other out. So we end up with a double depth pleat coming off of that wrap, and we can press to squash. So now, because of that double depth pleat, when we flip over to fold the open triangle twist, we have to be careful to move this mountain one space over and leave the mountain from the rhombus twist behind. So notice, I have this one mountain, the valley fold two spaces away. When I shift my pleat, I now have two mountains, two spaces away. The valley stayed in the same place, and we're putting a new valley on the far side of this mountain. So we have the same amount of contraction. There's one grid spacing here and one grid spacing here, but it has been separated into different pleats. With that in place, we can press to squash. So now that we've seen how this pattern works, we can say, oh, I don't need to flip to the other side. I know I'm going to fold the closed triangle twist next. And by the way, basically I'm showing an iteration of different ways of finding these twists. You could continue doing the same way that I did the first time and be working around the other direction, working your way back through those pleat overlaps. This way is more scalable to folding the pattern with more repeats. So coming along to the next set of parallel pleats, my reference for the closed triangle is I'm going to come one space out from this intersection of corners of twists, which this pleat comes out of, and my valley fold is going to be down in this direction because it has to be at a 120-degree angle relative to the other pleats of the twist. Then my mountain fold is going to be one spacing away. If I just press this into place, that would be a pleat overlap here. That's going to be kind of hard to open on the other side. So what I'm going to do instead, and this is a fun trick, is open up the first pleat that I come to and pop down on the valleys, pop up on the mountains, and that's interesting. The pleats down here, the mountain and the valley fold, we go back. Actually, I'll go ahead and draw it. So I'll just fold this so I can draw on it more easily. Notice I'm drawing through an existing pleat, which I have told you in the past not to do. But when I set up my compound wrap, guess what folds they end up on? What grid lines? So when you have these pleats at coming together at 60 degrees, notice just one grid triangle in that corner, we have this property where the jump when you cross this pleat here is the same as the jump when you do a compound wrap. So that's a cool thing to keep in mind. It's the same reason why in yesterday's pattern, when I did the pleat overlap in the opposite order, I was able to get all the mountain folds of the rhombus twist. It's the same idea. But here we have the compound wrap. We can go ahead and squash the triangle twist. And then flipping over, we can take that compound wrap and take that point that's stuck down under and pop it up, and boom, there's all the mountain folds for the rhombus twist. Very convenient to go from a compound wrap to a rhombus twist, assuming your paper deals well with that popping motion, which stiffer papers like Skytone, the paper I'm using, typically do. So I'd promised to show another way to get the two rhombus twists in place, and we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to open this pleat that's passing through and rearrange things. Basically change it into a diagonal pleat of the next rhombus twist, which is hanging out there on that three-way intersection that was laying flat. This pleat is heading down towards this existing this not yet folded rhombus. And I'm going to emphasize a mountain fold coming down and back from the corner of the central diamond. You'll notice that both of these mountain folds are spreading out in the same direction from the central diamond. And then my valley folds are going to make a three-way intersection right at the end of that one grid spacing mountain leg. And that will tuck under, and we can squash both of these rhombus twists. So that's a bit of a more advanced setup. As I did in the previous set of parallel pleats, you can do those first this one and then the other and the wrap. So I'm showing multiple different ways to fold this pattern. You can pick one and repeat that over and over if you choose. But this is kind of more how I would fold bigger patterns. So then, like we did last time, we're going to resolve that triangle wrap into an open rhombus twist. This double depth pleat is going to split into 2 single depth pleats. So we have the 1 grid spacing of pleat left behind, and then 1 grid spacing of pleat over here. That outlines our open triangle twist. And then we can repeat once again. This time I'll do it without drawing on the paper, so you have a better visual of what that looks like. I'll set up my triangle twist and do a compound wrap with the first pleat that I come to. I'm only ever wrapping 1 pleat. So whenever I have 2 pleats that I'm crossing, I'm doing a wrap on the first one that I come to, and then an overlap on the second. That's because when I go to the other side of the paper, which is what wraps are for, setting up or helping set up a twist that will be on the other side of the paper, now I'm free to manipulate these pleats without worrying about how this pleat is interacting with the next pleat over. It's just already in place. And I can go ahead and put my next rhombus up here before I squash, which gets the pleat through here out of the way. And then that wrap will have a double depth pleat coming out of it and heading towards the edge. Then I can squash both of my new rhombus twists. And flipping over, I'm going to turn that double depth pleat into 2 single depth pleats where the mountains are 2 grid spaces apart, and squash my new open triangle twist. Coming into this final set of parallel pleats, I'm going to start once again with the closed triangle twist and do a compound wrap on that first pleat overlap and press to squash. Flipping over, I'm going to open up my rhombus twist and the rhombus above, which again, if you wanted to do these in 2 separate steps, you could, and it's the exact same way that I showed it earlier in the video. And press to squash. And then flipping over, I can turn that double depth pleat from the wrap into 2 single depth pleats to squash my open triangle twist. And then I have a bit of a messy situation in here. What I'm going to do today is flip over and take that 3-way intersection and turn it into a rhombus twist. Notice when I did that, when I turned that 3-way intersection into a rhombus twist, I kept as much of the structure around here as I could. I poked from the back to find the new diagonal pleat. And I haven't even finished erasing this pleat out here. And that pleat that's going out there actually is the correct pleat to make a closed triangle twist. We just need it to lay down in a different direction so we can tuck that under. So if we look at that from the other side of the paper, I managed to get it into this state, and we need to take that free pleat and lay it down. So that's the secret of the triangle wrap. It's a closed triangle laid down. If you had your paper opened more, like let's say you were in this position and you open the pleat overlap and you completely erase this pleat coming from the three-way intersection, then you would have this situation where we erase the mountain fold of the pleat passing over the top and create our triangle wrap that way. But yeah, crisp paper and a gentle touch does wonders for setting up your twists. And then we can flip over to the other side to squash that closed triangle twist and finish folding Maelstrom. So that's what's going on with this pattern. There's so many twists here, many more than we've seen in previous days. That's why this tutorial is subsequently longer. But we have these pairs of rhombus twists on the back. We have these circle shapes on the front, and it's actually even more pronounced with backlighting, which we can check out here. Like that circle shape is darker than the rest of the areas. And that is also true when you repeat the pattern. Those circle shapes really stand out. So this is with the symmetries that you'll see in the mini crease pattern download if you're signed up at training.gatheringfolds.advent. And then you can continue so you can see those 3 rhombi around the triangle, or you can repeat it exactly like we've been folding it with the closed triangle there. You end up with another open triangle to resolve the symmetries, and you can have all kinds of things going on there. There is another variation that I've folded that is framed because I actually submitted it to a gallery show. Actually, it was on display in Brooklyn earlier this year. And this one repeats without going straight to triangles at all. It goes to more rhombus twists, actually. And then it has these flagstone motifs. It's definitely harder and more complex than the other 2 ways of repeating this pattern. All 3 of these ways are in the Advent of Tess 2025 ebook, which you can find at gatheringfolds.com, origamiusa.org, or origami-shop.com. So there's so many things that you could do with this pattern now that you know how to fold it. And this is setting us up for tomorrow's pattern, which uses only rhombus and triangle twists, no hexagons. And actually, surprisingly, given how much blank space it looks there is in the pattern, it uses even more twists. So we'll get to practice even more rhombus and triangle twists tomorrow. Happy folding, and see you then.